A lot of people are struggling right now with the mental health consequences of the coronavirus. In my last video, we looked at 6 tips to help manage stress and anxiety. Now we're going to look at some strategies to help manage feelings of depression. A big challenge right now is staying active enough. A lack of activity can leave us feeling unmotivated, with low energy, and even depressed. And when we're feeling this way, it's even harder to get ourselves to do things, so it creates a vicious cycle, where the less we do, the worse we feel. And then the worse we feel, the harder it is to get ourselves to do anything. And as a result, we end up feeling even worse. Behavioral activation is a tool that helps us improve our mood by increasing our level of activity, by doing things that give us a sense of accomplishment, of pleasure, and of feeling connected to other people. Now, finding a way to do all of these types of activities is more difficult now, but it's still important that we incorporate these into our lives. Now, we don't need to be that ambitious. Even simple things can help. Getting some work done around the house or taking care of tasks we've been putting off can give us a sense of accomplishment and make us feel better about ourselves. And regardless of what's going on in the outside world, there are lots of pleasurable activities we can do at home, like doing something artistic or crafty, or learning a new skill or hobby, or taking an online class, or trying out some new recipes. These can all give us a sense of accomplishment as well as pleasure, like my latest pandemic hobby of learning how to bake sourdough bread, which has been both extremely fun and rewarding. And being more active helps bring more structure to our lives, which is something that's missing for a lot of us now. And by scheduling in these activities in advance, we make it more likely that we follow through with our plans, instead of not knowing what to do with our free time and just defaulting to binging Netflix or spending all day on the internet. And planning things in advance also gives us something to look forward to, which can be a big help in improving our mood. And a lot of people are feeling lonely and isolated right now, so it's really important that we find ways to incorporate social activities into our lives. Whether it's in a backyard with plenty of room to distance ourselves from each other, or going out to eat on a patio if that's something you're comfortable with, or just going for a walk with a friend. But once winter comes, a lot of these types of things won't be an option anymore. So even if Skyping or FaceTime isn't quite the same as seeing someone in person, it does give us a chance to spend time with our friends and family virtually face to face. And there are plenty of ways to socialize online these days, whether it's holding your board game night on an online platform, or hosting your book group, or even a dinner party over Zoom. So make sure you find some physically distant ways of spending time and doing things together with your friends and loved ones on a regular basis, because too much isolation can leave anyone feeling depressed. With so much uncertainty these days, it's easy to get caught up worrying. Now, if you're worrying about catching COVID-19, there are things you can do to limit your risk, so do these. But worrying on top of that isn't going to help and only going to stress you out. And worrying about things like how long this will last or what the future will bring isn't productive, because nobody has the answers to these questions right now. And so your worrying won't help you solve anything and is only going to feed back into your anxiety. And it's also easy to get caught up in ruminating about how much our lives are suffering and how unfair it all seems and how hard it can be to cope with everything. But ruminating and getting stuck in our heads, going over and over all of the things that we're upset about, is exhausting, and it has a negative effect on our mood and can even leave us feeling depressed. And for some strategies on how to get out of your head and start worrying and ruminating less, check out the playlist that I linked to in the pinned comment. And a good way to avoid worrying and ruminating is to be more mindful. Now, we don't need to do anything special in order to practice mindfulness. Anything we do, we can do mindfully, by simply bringing our full attention to it. And the more we pay attention to what's actually going on in our lives, the more enjoyable whatever we're doing tends to be, and the less likely we are to find ourselves stuck in our heads, worrying or ruminating and making ourselves miserable. And although we don't need to meditate in order to practice mindfulness, just taking a few minutes throughout the day to pause and follow our breathing helps keep us grounded and brings us back into the present. And with all of the negative things that are going on right now, it's important that every day we try to recognize some positives or good things that happened. Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, notes that we think too much about what goes wrong and not enough about what goes right in our lives. And this focus on negative events sets us up for anxiety and depression. One way to keep this from happening is to get better at thinking about and savoring what went well. He recommends an exercise called 3 Good Things. where at the end of each day, you take some time and write down 3 good things that happened, regardless of how small or insignificant they may seem. And this might not seem like much, but research has found that doing this exercise for just 1 week can increase happiness and decrease symptoms of depression for up to 6 months. Once we start looking for these things that go well, it's more likely that we find and notice and appreciate them, which goes hand in hand with being more mindful. And the more positive experiences we're aware of during our days, the better our days are. And finally, make sure to practice self-care. With fewer things to do in our spare time and less structure in our lives, it's easy to be sedentary, eat and drink out of stress or boredom, stay up too late, or fall into any number of bad habits. But with so many things outside of our control, it's important to focus on the things that we do have some control over. Getting some sort of regular exercise, even if just going for walks, is important and helps us feel better both physically and mentally. And make sure to have a supply of healthy foods on hand, which can take a little more planning these days, to make it easier to eat well. And do your best to get enough sleep. And if you do struggle with insomnia, try to stick to a regular sleep schedule, even if your time is more flexible these days. And make sure you take time to relax, unwind, and do whatever you can to help manage your stress and anxiety and mood before things have a chance to build up and become overwhelming. And you'll find my video on how to manage stress and anxiety during the pandemic below or in the description or pinned comment, as well as a playlist that covers some of these topics in more detail. And please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.